All right, peeps, I'm back with another one. Hi, I'm also fogging up in here. My goodness, what a day. It's like 99% humidity here. Well, actually now it must be 100 because it's raining, but in the gym it's just insane. Anyway, I have been in discussion with someone about typing, and it is a hot topic in human design. And as you dive into human design, it can get very confusing because everybody has their opinion and everybody starts going, oh, you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't do this, and that's not original, or that's not Ra's work, or that's not that person's not a human design analyst, or whatever it is. Well, I'm not a human design analyst, I'm from a different school. So, and I'm also in the gate of the rebels, so I could give two fucks, really. And so what I come in here to discuss is a couple of things. And when I was listening to Robert E. Grant in a seminar yesterday, he said something really cool, which I 100% agreed with, which is why it was really cool. And he was talking about astrologies and things like that, and how we use, he kind of was using it as an example of, what's correct, this or that or the other thing. And he said, well, they all are. And he was talking about tropical and sidereal and true sidereal, and, there's all these different systems for sky measurement. And I 100% agree, and it comes down to, what are you measuring? When it comes to human design, we have types, and I talk about types because I'm a projector and I relate a lot to the type that I have. A type that in its construction didn't exist pre-1781 because the chart didn't allow the complexity to allow that type of circuitry to exist. However, when Ra downloaded the system in 1987, he was not given types. He was not informed about projectors and generators and manifesting generators and all this sort of stuff, and manifestors and reflectors. He was given the map. He was given circuitry. He was given a high level of understanding about how the Vedic astrology is affecting the earth cycles. He was given so much stuff, insect circuitry, mammalian circuitry. It's actually unbelievable the depth of information he took down in 8 days and then has developed out, however you believe he got it, whether you buy into the story or not. And it is an incredibly complex system. So however it comes about, it's genius level shit. Like, it's just, and it's wild how accurate it is. And I use it for so many different people across different walks of life. I read couples I've never met before, and they are blown away with how I can see how they argue, how they get on, where they're supported, where they're not, within that circuitry. So it's an incredible system, which is why, I got obsessed with it six, almost 7 years ago. And I'm not any less obsessed with it. I probably listen to stuff on that more, and I'm in a different system now with regards to medical intuition, but it's an incredible system. But for me as a projector, I can see energy fields. That's something that I can do really well. That's what I'm designed for. And relating that as being a projector in the first place is relating to type. Now, type emerged later as Ra played with the system. And to me, how I read this is, like all systems, they evolve and develop. That's just part of life, is that as you start to play with a system, you start to recognize consistencies. And also as you start to play with the system and understand that we as human beings evolved from 7-centered to 9-centered beings, and there was a transitionary phase there until we became 9-centered Homo sapien and transitus, versus what will become the new 9-centered Rav, which is another development in the 9-centered system that allows for the autive circuit, which is, yes, connected to autism. And the new beings will be incredibly autistic, which is why I was even in this seminar yesterday, is because I'm fascinated and have always been kind of fascinated by the misunderstanding around autism and sensitivity, and by the fact that these beings are actually a new technology for a new being that isn't even here yet. And I think they're going to be really fundamental in helping us to communicate with a being that's nothing like us, and there are only very few of us in this format that will be able to communicate with them directly anyway. So we're actually going to need, I think we're going to need our autists to help us that have already come in, but they are not the new being, they are another connection along the way. And yep, we can talk about vaccinations and how autistics occur. The reality is nothing is by accident. And actually this world is just, it's actually quite toxic for us as 9-centered Homo sapien and transitus. This world that we are living in is a 7-centered world still. And so that's why there's so much depression. That's why there's mutations in the prostate that are not are resulting in cancers. That's why there's a lot of this stuff going on, is actually because the world we have is so fractured from what it needs to be in order to be not so frickin' noisy to new beings. Anyway, back to the question, to type or not to type. And the answer to the question is, if it's useful to you, use it. And if it's not, throw it away. And just because it's not useful in this moment doesn't mean it doesn't become useful. And you can absolutely read Human Design, as Ra did for many years before he bought in type, from the circuitry alone. But here's the thing about that circuitry. It plays out in very distinct ways. And as you observe that circuitry play out, the typing he came up with, it just kind of emerges. A manifestor is concerned with impact. I love manifestors. Whenever I talk to manifestors, they might appreciate a person more than I do. And that's not to say I don't appreciate people, but they may appreciate a person more than I do because they appreciate the impact that person has. Whereas I am looking at how the person is functioning as a person. I don't care about their impact. I care about their health and their uniqueness. I care about who they are. So when I talk to my friends, and I have a very close friend at the moment who's a manifestor, and we talk a lot, and he'll start talking about the impact of the person, and I will start talking about the person themselves. And then I will sit back and I will go, oh look, the manifestor is appreciating the impact. I am appreciating the person. And that is just type showing itself in the way its auric field works. And the thing about type is it gives rise to a particular type of aura, and it is trying to describe a particular type of aura. And that aura comes about because of the way the circuitry is playing out. A manifestor has a motor to the throat. It is an energy type. It works in surges. If you watch, you will see that that's consistently true. And the argument is, well, what about type where it's a node and a strange planet like Pluto or whatever that has a very slow orbit, etc., that's not always necessarily very active? Like, what about where Pluto and a node are making up the generator channel, for example? Is that person still a generator? And my answer to this is stay open and observe. But I know people who are generators who have a north node that makes up their generating channel, and they still behave and look like generators. They still seem to have access to source energy. Does it change things? Yes, it can do. Of course it can. But not in the nature of type, perhaps in the nature of the way that energy runs, but it doesn't make them a projector in presentation at all. It doesn't make them non-energy at all. And that's because you have to question what is being mapped there. And what is being mapped is the solar arc movement, and it's being referenced by these points of planetary bodies moving through gates. It's not the same as what true sidereal is mapping. It's not the same as what sidereal is mapping. That's about planetary bodies and the impact on the body. That's about mapping proper, true sidereal is about mapping the constellations correctly and how they're impacting the body. From a human design perspective, and I feel, from what I understand, why tropical is used is because we are most affected by the seasons in the solar arc. 70% of your neutrino stream is coming through that solar arc. And so when we are mapping planetary movements through gates via a solar arc, it's because we are prioritizing the impact of the sun on us. And all of these systems are relevant, but the sun is 70% of that neutrino stream. The sun is more important than anything else. But it doesn't make the others irrelevant. It just means to pretend that the sun isn't relevant, or isn't the most relevant. Put me forward a good argument and we'll discuss, you know. I just think it depends on what you're measuring. With regards to typing, even when you're looking at a north node, it's still about mapping the solar arc. And so it still works. And in my observation thus far, generators with a north node, and the reason the north node is, or the south node might be interesting, right, is the north node doesn't really become active in your chart till you're like 42, 44-ish, depending on where that crosses over. It's a Uranus opposition thing. So it's a timing thing. And so people would argue, well, you're not really using that right now. And I'm like, it's not how the map works. Yes, it becomes more relevant later, but it's not how the map works. And so that needs to be considered, basically. With regards to type, check it, see if it makes any relevance to you. If it doesn't, throw it away, do it a different way. But to me, especially when you're dealing with generator types, I mean, and they're sacral responders, it's like, you're a generator, you're here to respond, sacral. And it's so easy. And generators never frickin' even remember what they are half the time. So if I tell them you're a sacral responder, you're here to respond to shit, and it's a gut jump, that is almost all they need to know. Everything else is fine tuning that's more relevant to other types. Generators have, particularly pure sacral generators, an easier time of it all, especially in the current world where it's been a generator world. As you'll note, it's getting a little crazy out there. And over the course of the next year, a lot more of you are going to start reaching out to projectors for help. And a lot more of you are going to start to find that the strategies set forward by generators in a left world are not working the way you wanted them to. And an example I had of this with a friend last night, she's got 3 left, 1 right variables. So she's a very strategic being, but she's a projector. And she's innocence motivation. So it's got an in the moment kind of quality to it. And she's splenic. So she's this weird sort of combo of be in the moment and be strategic at the same time. And I said, look, strategy has its place for you, specifically for you. But the thing to remember is, as we move forward, don't get locked into your strategy. Use it while it's relevant and shift and change when it's time to shift and change. And the best example I can give to you is people use a lot of strategies around food. And the reality with the strategy around food is Ayurveda, right time, right place, right human, right food. There is no good food and bad food. There is just food that's appropriate in the moment for you. And so some people find keto very useful. Other people basically end up giving themselves a coronary. Right? And there's genetics that go into that. And there's also right time, right place, right human. Veganism versus meat eater. I'm sorry, guys, but none of you are fucking right. Right time, right place, right human. When I went hardcore raw vegan in London, I ended up having to drink milk for a month. Not because milk has any fucking nutrition in it, especially not milk out of this classic bottle that you're allowed to buy in a supermarket, but because the body was craving something. It had gone into a deep shock. And the milk was useful to calm the shock and reverse dis-ease. Understand what that means. Not disease as you think of it, but dis-ease. It's, oh, I don't like this. Oh, that's very calming. It's that simple, right? So your strategy, as I said to my friend last night, going forward, is strategy and authority. And that has been given to us through type, right? Do I feel like eating this right now? Gut says yes. Eat the fucking food. Enjoy. There are no cheat days under that. There's just, what do you sacrally respond to well? What don't you? What do you feel is good for you if you're emotional? What don't you? Splenically, what nudges you? What doesn't? You know? And then I feel for reflectors on this one because it's 30 days of research to work out what's good for them. And here's where reflectors go wrong. They sample some sacral frickin' responder aura somewhere and they start living like that. They lock into it too much. And then they start thinking they can yes or no things. And it's like, no, 30 days to make a decision about how you're going to change your diet, your exercise routine. You got to do the research. You got to go into the talking to lots of people and finding out stuff. And look, no one else has to do that but a reflector. So is type useful there? Fuck yeah. I mean, as much as I think projectors are the most vulnerable, I think that's obvious. I feel for reflectors because I think it's a huge vulnerability to have an external authority, no internal intuition authority like that. Like, yes, they're very intuitive, but it works so mechanically differently. How else am I going to explain that other than, hey mate, you're a reflector? You know, oh, what is that? Well, it's a wisdom gatherer that is going to go through 29 days of the moon moving through its different things, and you're going to talk to lots of people and you're going to sample lots of auras, and no one else has a strategy like that. No one. Not even the mental projector, which really does need to work off its environment, also has no external authority. Internal authority is completely external, but works in a completely different way. I mean, I think it's almost a gaslight for those very special types that don't have internal authorities to say that type is irrelevant, that Ra's development of the system isn't worth it. I think that makes it a lot harder for people, potentially. So that's my spiel, but I totally understand why people say it, and I think it's really cool to read a chart without type. I think that's a really cool reading to do, and I quite like doing them. But I have found type personally to be so freaking useful, and I just can't see how it's not. Huge spiel, super technical, really for those of you out there that are getting deeper into design and starting to bump into things where you get told this is wrong and that is right. Honestly, strategy and authority. Use your own intuition to work it out and decide for yourself. Even what I say is not for you. It is me sharing to see how it resonates for you, and you deciding with your own authority what works for you. I'm not the boss. You are. Have a great day. Erin Zen Warrior signing out. Like, subscribe, comment, add things. By all means, contradict me. I want to hear it. Be polite in the comments, because if you're not, I will slap you for it. But I don't mind someone who contradicts me. I've had a background conversation with someone who's very involved in the human design world about exactly this. And it was fascinating to hear what he had to say and his perspective on it. And I don't disagree with everything he said, but I don't outright agree with everything he said, because I actually don't like to discard possibility until it really proves itself to be useless. So anyway, signing out. See you guys later.